Hey football fans, welcome to another episode of the Top 10 Project. This time we will be reviewing the top 10 most valuable receivers of the 2010s. Okay, before we get to the top 10 receivers of the decade, let's take a look at the top 3 receivers for each year in the decade. The top 10 most valuable receivers of the 2010s. 2010, number 1, Brandon Lloyd. Number 2, Dwayne Bowe. Number 3, Greg Jennings. 2011, number 1, Calvin Johnson. Number 2, Jordy Nelson. Number 3, Rob Gronkowski. 2012, number 1, Dez Bryant. Number 2, Calvin Johnson. Number 3, Vincent Jackson. 2013, number 1, Calvin Johnson. Number 2, Demaryius Thomas. Number 3, Josh Gordon. 2014, number 1, Dez Bryant. Number 2, Antonio Brown. Number 3, Jordy Nelson. 2015, number 1, Allen Robinson. Number 2, Brandon Marshall. Number 3, Odell Beckham Jr. 2016, number 1, Jordy Nelson. Number 2, Mike Evans. Number 3, Antonio Brown. 2017, number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. Number 2, Antonio Brown. Number 3, Tyreek Hill. 2018, number 1, Tyreek Hill. Number 2, Antonio Brown. Number 3, DeAndre Hopkins. 2019, number 1, Michael Thomas. Number 2, Chris Godwin. Number 3, Devontae Parker. Alright, now that we've finished the yearly recaps, let's dive into the top 10 most valuable receivers for the 2010s. Okay, coming in at number 10 is Jordy Nelson with an FGV of 909.65. He had an average ranking of 43.5 throughout the 2010s and ranked in the top 5 3 times, with his high rank of number 1 coming in 2016. The same year, he led the league in touchdowns with 14 and earned the Comeback Player of the Year award. He was the leading receiver for the Green Bay Packers 4 of the 10 years in the 2010s. Number 9, Calvin Johnson comes in with an FGV of 912.64. Johnson had an average yearly rank of 9.0 throughout the 2010s, but only played in 6 of the 10 years in that decade and ranked in the top 5 4 out of the 6 years. Not playing all 10 years affected his overall decade ranking. Johnson is currently the Lions' all-time leading receiver. Okay, number 8, Dez Bryant with an FGV of 914.29, had an average yearly rank of 36.25 throughout the 2010s. He came in ranking in the top 5 twice, both times coming at number 1 in 2012 and 2014. Bryant missed the 2018 season with an Achilles injury and also missed the 2019 season as he went unsigned. Had he played in those 2 seasons, he would undoubtedly be higher on the list. Number 7, A.J. Green comes in with an FGV of 937.53 and had an average yearly rank of 25.13. He placed in the top 5 only once, 2013, where he came in number 5, but had one of the highest yards per catch average of the decade, which helped his overall decade ranking. Number 6, Jimmy Graham comes in with an FGV of 943.78 and had an average yearly rank of 59.9 throughout the 2010s. He only ranked in the top 5 once throughout the 2010s, his high rank of number 4 coming in 2013. He is, however, the first player in our top 10 so far that played in all 10 years during the decade, and that added performance helped boost his overall decade ranking. Okay, future Hall of Famer Rob Gronkowski makes our list at number 5 with an FGV of 974.59 and an average yearly ranking of 32.56. He ranked in the top 5 twice throughout the 2010s, his high rank of number 3 coming in 2011. He was voted first-team All-Pro 4 out of the 10 years and was the Comeback Player of the Year in 2014. He did retire in 2019, and then he unretired in 2020 to play the 2020 and 21 seasons. Had he played the 2019 season, he would be even higher on our list than number 5 for the overall decade rankings. He led all receivers, scoring 79 touchdowns during the decade, which helped solidify his spot at number 5 on our list. Number 4, Demaryius Thomas with an FGV of 985.97 had an average yearly rank of 50.6 throughout the 2010s. He ranked in the top 5 3 times throughout the 2010s, his high rank of number 2 coming in 2013. He is the second of 4 players to play all 10 years throughout the decade, helping him fend off Gronkowski for the number 4 spot. Coming in at number 3, Larry Fitzgerald, with an FGV of 990.87 and had an average yearly rank of 28.6 throughout the 2010s. He ranked in the top 5 just one time throughout the 2010s, his high rank of number 5 coming in 2011. Although he only ranked in the top 5 once during the decade, his consistency in producing makes him our first receiver of the decade to crack 10,000 receiving yards. Fitzgerald is currently the Cardinals' all-time leading receiver. Number 2, Julio Jones, with an FGV of 1,084.02 with an average yearly rank of 20.67. He ranked in the top 5 only twice throughout the 2010s, his high rank of number 5 coming in 2015 and 2016. He did, however, rank in the top 10 7 out of the 9 years he played during that decade, which helped push him up the overall decade rankings. He twice led the league in receiving yards, in 2015 with 1,871 and 2018 with 1,677. Jones is currently the Falcons' all-time leading receiver. And the number 1 most valuable receiver of the 2010s is Antonio Brown. Brown tops our list for the 2010s with an FGV of 1,144.21, had an average yearly rank of 55.5. He held his highest rank of number 2 3 years throughout the decade, 2014, 17, and 18. While his overall average ranking seems low, he was definitely a touchdown scoring machine, scoring 75 times, second most during the decade. Brown led the league in receptions and receiving yards twice, 2014 and 2015 for receptions with 129 and 136 respectively, and 2014 and 17 for yards with 1,698 and 1,533 respectively. He also led the league in touchdowns in 2018 with 15 touchdowns. He was voted first-team All-Pro 4 times throughout the decade and is the last receiver on our list that played all 10 seasons of the decade. Again, it was a tight race to be the number 1 most valuable receiver of the decade. Brown's off-field problems that began in 2018 carried through 2019 season and opened the door for someone else to possibly displace him from the number 1 spot. But the two facts that only 4 of the top 10 receivers played all 10 years and that he had such a high number of touchdowns scored helped carry him through to the number 1 spot. Well, that's my top 10 most valuable receivers of the 2010s. Let me know in the comments how I did. Who did I leave off, or who would you replace on my list? As always, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.